Jake Paul just got kicked to the curb by Joe Rogan after getting injured in training. The dude was supposed to be the golden boy of boxing, right? But now, with this injury, it's like the universe is saying, "Hold your horses, champ." Rogan, never one to mince words, has been roasting Jake left and right. He's calling him out for being soft, for overhyping himself, and for not being ready for the big leagues. It's like a verbal beatdown that took a wild turn, and the internet is loving every second of it. This is a major blow to Jake's image, and it's going to be tough for him to recover from this. The problem child just took a hit in training with a nasty injury, and you won't believe how Joe Rogan couldn't resist roasting him. Talk about bad luck. Jake Paul just suffered a major setback with a training injury. Can you believe it? The guy who talks all this big game about being a tough guy can't even stay healthy. And who's loving this more than anyone? You guessed it, Joe Rogan. The podcast king is having a field day. He's been roasting Jake non-stop, saying stuff like, "Maybe boxing isn't for you, Jake. Stick to making TikTok videos." It's savage, but it's hilarious. The internet's eating this up, and it's not looking good for Jake right now. So, not only did Jake Paul get injured in training, but he also got a major dose of reality from Joe Rogan. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. And to make matters worse, his next fight is scheduled for November 15th, 2024, against none other than Mike Tyson. This is the biggest fight of Jake's career, hands down. The stakes couldn't be higher. If he wins, he will shut up all the haters, including Joe Rogan, who's been saying he can only beat washed-up athletes. It's his chance to prove that he's a legit boxer and not just a social media star. But if he loses, well, let's just say his reputation will be in tatters. This fight could make or break him. From the get-go, Rogan hasn't been a big fan of Paul and his loudmouth approach. The UFC commentator has been sending the YouTuber-turned-boxer some brutal warnings, but Jake, being Jake, has been ignoring them all. But this time, it has all come back to him like a punch in the face. You know what they say, you don't ignore Rogan's words. He's seen it all.
Kind of insulting. It's brave, it's bold of him, but it's like, Jesus Christ, there's levels.
Joe Rogan is known for his no-holds-barred opinions, and the fight world doesn't take him lightly due to his deep knowledge of boxing and MMA. This guy really knows what he's talking about, and that's not something you ignore. Well, tell that to Jake, because that's all this guy has been doing. The problem child has switched to boxing after a successful career as a YouTuber and former Disney star. Love him or hate him, he's made a name for himself in the boxing community, but his best weapon so far has been his brash comments. Yeah, he's got a knack for stirring up controversy by firing shots at the biggest names in the game. Jake's been very public about his intense career switch and shares all elements of boxing with his fans. Yeah, you can look up dozens of videos of him training and sparring, but his latest sparring video has really taken the fight world by storm. So what exactly went down in this sparring session that has everyone talking? It's serious because it even warranted a reaction from Joe Rogan, a brutal reaction. Well, it turns out Jake took a pretty nasty hit during training. We're talking about a full-on collateral ligament tear in his knee. That's the big stabilizing ligament on the outside of your knee. Basically, it's like snapping a rubber band. Dude's gonna be out for a while. This is a major setback, and it's gonna throw a wrench in his training for the Tyson fight. Let's jump to Rogan's reaction. Don't get me wrong, the UFC commentator isn't a hater. He gives the problem child credit where it's due. You can't deny that Jake has given us some epic knockouts. I'm sure you've seen his fights with Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren.
Crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
However, he's in deep waters after his recent sparring mishap. Take it from Rogan. The kid has worked hard and he's taken on some tough opponents. But this beatdown? This is a wake-up call. There's a big difference between fighting other celebrities or retired athletes and stepping into the ring with a real seasoned professional boxer. Jake needs to understand that. Come on, you can't compare fighting Mike Tyson to a fight with Tommy Fury or Nate Diaz. He's up against the baddest man on the planet this time, and that's not something you can rule out. Rogan's recent verbal jabs at Jake Paul's approach to training and fighting have everyone talking. The UFC commentator believes that Jake might be getting too cocky and not respecting the sport enough. Well, he's not alone because fans have noticed this too. Paul hasn't taken his fight with Tyson seriously even for a second ever since it was announced. He's treating this like he's stepping into the ring with a newbie. You and I both know Jake's got a problem with crossing that overconfidence line, but this time he has really taken things too far.
I think there's a very high chance of that.
He's not the same. Mike Tyson. He's not the same. He's not the same fighter that he.
When you've got a room full of people telling you to take Mike seriously, you take Mike seriously, Jake. Yeah, because the 58-year-old, on the other hand, is gearing up like a beast. There's a reason why Mike's considered the best boxer of all time. He's got a champion's mindset, which means he gives every single fight his blood, sweat, and tears no matter who the opponent is. Even in a clash with Jake Paul, he's training like he's a newbie getting ready for his debut. I mean, take a look for yourself. Iron Mike isn't here to play. And as for the problem child, things are looking way worse than before. So, Jake Paul's last fight against Mike Perry was like the nail in the coffin and the end to Jake's hype train. That was supposed to be a stepping stone, right? A warm-up for the Tyson fight. But let's be real, it was more like a glorified sparring session. Jake got the W, sure, with a 6th-round KO in Tampa, Florida. But come on, Mike Perry, that's not exactly a world beater. Jake basically just bullied a smaller guy for a few rounds until he dropped. It was classic Jake Paul. All brawn, no brains, no finesse, no skill, just raw power. That fight was a red flag, a warning sign that Jake was nowhere near ready for a guy like Tyson. And now with this injury, it's like the universe is slapping him in the face, saying, "Slow down, kid." Now let's talk about why everyone's piling on Jake Paul right now. Joe Rogan ain't just some random dude. He's got millions of fans who hang on to his every word. When he calls you out, it echoes through the entire fight world. And right now, he's sounding the alarm on this Tyson fight. The hype for this matchup was already through the roof, but Rogan's recent smackdown on Jake has sent it into overdrive. Every other fighter, analyst, and commentator is now chiming in with their 2 cents, and most of them are siding with Rogan. It's like everyone suddenly realized that this fight is a terrible idea, especially with Jake's injury. The writing's on the wall, folks. This ain't gonna end well for Jake. UFC President Dana White always has something to say about Jake, and he has weighed in. White has been against the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul matchup since day one. He's a strong believer that Mike should stay out of the ring for good and respect his age. He believes that Paul is making a dirty move by not only challenging, but stepping into the ring with Mike, who will be 58 by the time this fight sees the light of day.
Jake fought a guy who was his age and was also considered a boxer, and he lost. So if you can keep fighting fucking 50-something-year-olds...
You don't think Tyson has a chance?
And making a living at it. I think that Mike Tyson has a puncher's chance against...
Meanwhile, Floyd Mayweather, who has had his own back and forth with Jake Paul, shared his take on the scenario too. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's levels to this sport. Jake needs to understand that he's not at the top level yet. Money Mayweather likes to stay out of the drama as much as he can, but he couldn't keep his opinion about Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul to himself. This mismatched clash has everyone talking due to the overhype. Plus, Mike is looking scary ahead of the epic fight. It doesn't matter if his opponent is a seasoned boxer or a newbie YouTuber turned boxer, Mike treats everyone the same. He believes every challenge is just as tough as the last one. And this is how the man stays humble. If anything, Jake can learn a thing or two from him. We're 2024 and 60-year-olds nowadays are nothing like the old people back in the day. Well, that's all thanks to hormone replacement therapies. Mike's undergoing this treatment, and it can be the big factor that helps him come out on top in his upcoming fight with Paul. Yeah, he's freaking Mike Tyson, but he's stepping in with a 27-year-old at the old age of 58. He's going to need all the help he can to make sure his body keeps up with his mind. Enter hormone replacement. Even Joe Rogan has advocated the benefits he's reaped by going through the HRT treatment.
It's a game changer.
Oh,
yeah. It's a different thing. Like, a 57-year-old man today, like Mike Tyson, it's like, that's not a 57-year-old man.
The thing about old people today, that's what's interesting about this Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. Old people today have hormone replacement. Hormone replacement is a game changer. Jake Paul might have bitten off more than he can chew with this whole boxing thing. This injury is a major setback, and it's looking like he might not be ready for Tyson come November. The clock is ticking, and every day that goes by without him training at full capacity is a big loss. Joe Rogan's already warning everyone not to hold their breath for this fight to happen. If Jake can't recover in time, this whole thing could fall apart. And let's be real, if the fight gets canceled, it's going to be a massive blow to Jake's career. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. So there you go, Fight World. That's all I have for you today. What are your thoughts on Jake Paul getting kicked by Joe Rogan after injury and training? Make sure to fill the comment section with your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more boxing news. See you in the next video.